Not everyone who listens to your story deserves to hear it. Some will use it to understand you, others to control you. In a world driven by oversharing, silence has become a rare art. We often feel the urge to explain ourselves, to seek validation by sharing our pain, our past, our plans with everyone. But wisdom does not lie in loudness, it lives in discretion. Master Shi Heng Yi teaches. The more sacred something is, the more silently it should be protected. When you tell everyone your story, you give away your power. You open yourself to misunderstanding, misuse, and misalignment. Not every heart is pure, not every ear is safe. Learn the discipline of silence, and you will master your energy, your peace, and your path. In life, silence is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of power. We live in a time where everything is shared. People share their thoughts before they are fully formed. They post their wounds before they have healed. They explain their path before they've taken the first step. But there is wisdom in restraint. There is great strength in silence. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to know your story. Your story is sacred. It is not a public performance. It is a path between you and the universe, between your inner being and the lessons you are here to learn. Yet often we are taught to explain ourselves, to defend our decisions, to narrate our lives as if we must earn permission from the world to live them. But wisdom does not seek permission, it walks in quiet confidence. Number 1. Not everyone is meant to know your journey. There is an ancient teaching that says the sacred should be hidden until it is ready to be revealed. Your life journey, your experiences, your pain, your breakthroughs are sacred. But in today's world, people are taught to share everything online, in conversations, in casual moments. We are encouraged to be open with everyone all the time. But openness without discernment is not wisdom. It is exposure. And exposure invites not only understanding, but also misinterpretation, envy, manipulation, and even harm. You must understand this. Not everyone you meet is meant to know your story. Some people are not capable of holding your truth. Some are not interested in your healing, only in your wounds. And some, unfortunately, will use what you've shared not to connect, but to control, criticize, or compete. Your journey is not entertainment. It is not a performance. It is a spiritual evolution. And spiritual things must be handled with care. Imagine a seed that has just been planted. Would you dig it up every day to show others how it's doing? No, you water it. You protect it from storms. You give it sunlight and silence. Your journey is the same. Telling your story too soon, too often, or to the wrong people is like exposing the seed to harsh winds before it can take root. You do not owe your story to everyone who asks. You do not owe your struggles to people who are only curious, not caring. You do not owe your inner world to those who have not earned your trust. And perhaps most importantly, you do not need to be understood to be whole. It is natural to want to be seen, to be known, to have someone say, "I understand what you've been through." But here is where many people make a mistake. They confuse visibility with validation. Just because you've told someone your truth doesn't mean they are capable of holding it with respect. Just because someone listens doesn't mean they are worthy of hearing. Real power begins when you stop explaining and start preserving. Let your life speak for itself. Let your growth speak through your discipline. Let your peace speak through your presence. The people who are truly meant to know your story will see it in how you carry yourself, not just in the words you say. There is also this: some parts of your journey are still unfolding. When you share them prematurely, you risk freezing them in other people's limited perception. They start seeing you not as you are becoming, but as who you used to be. And when too many people hold that outdated version of you in their minds, it becomes harder for you to move beyond it. So you must protect your becoming. You must honor the version of you that is still being built in silence. Silence is not secrecy. It is sacred space. When you walk this world with a quiet dignity, you conserve your energy. You sharpen your intuition. You strengthen your sense of direction. And slowly you begin to see not everyone is meant to come with you. Not everyone is meant to witness your process. And not everyone is meant to hear your story. Tell your story only when the soil is fertile. Speak only when your words are ready to plant something good. And trust this truth: your silence is not hiding. It is healing. It is choosing yourself, your peace, your boundaries, your evolution over the noise of the world. Because not everyone is meant to know your journey. And that is not rejection. That is protection. You see, some people will listen to your story only to use it against you. Some will misunderstand it because they haven't yet understood themselves. Some will take your vulnerability as weakness, and some, not out of malice, but ignorance, will project their own fears onto your path. So you must protect your story the way you would protect a flame in the wind. Speak only to those who have earned the right to hear your truth. Those who will not distort it, judge it, or reduce it. People who carry wisdom will listen with stillness, not with noise. They will hold your words with care, not with curiosity. You do not owe everyone your story, and the moment you realize that, you begin to reclaim your power. Number 2, oversharing weakens inner strength. There is a quiet strength in being able to hold your experiences without needing to display them. In the modern world, this strength is often forgotten. You're surrounded by invitations to speak, to post, to vent, to narrate our lives moment by moment. People believe that by expressing every thought, every struggle, and every feeling, they are being authentic. But what they don't realize is that constant expression can become a form of leakage, of energy, of clarity, and of power. When you speak too much of what you are still healing from, you interrupt the process. When you speak too early of your dreams, you open them to the opinions of those who were never meant to shape them. And when you speak just to be heard, you may lose the sacred silence where real understanding grows. Oversharing is not always a sign of openness. Often, it is a cry for validation. And here is the truth. Validation that comes from the outside is never sustainable. It becomes addictive. You begin to share more and more, hoping that someone will understand you deeply enough to finally give you peace. But peace is not given by others. It is earned in stillness. It is cultivated through self-trust. When you rely on the outside world to hold your story, you hand them the power to shape your identity. And slowly, you begin to confuse your inner voice with their opinions. You lose direction, you feel scattered, and worst of all, you no longer feel sovereign within your own experience. This is how oversharing weakens inner strength, not all at once, but gradually. With each unnecessary confession, each over-explained feeling, each unguarded dream, you give away pieces of your inner sanctuary. You forget the ancient discipline. What is sacred must be protected, not performed. True inner strength is not loud. It does not demand to be heard. It is felt in your posture, in your presence, in your silence. When you begin to cultivate this kind of strength, you become more selective with your words. You understand that not every thought must become speech. Not every emotion must be explained. Not every pain must be processed out loud. You learn to observe without reacting, or to feel without spilling, to grow without announcing. This is not repression, it is refinement. There is great wisdom in choosing when to speak and when to be silent. There is maturity in knowing that the most profound transformations happen in solitude, when you are face to face with yourself and no one else is watching. Oversharing often comes from the fear of being alone with our own experiences. But you must understand, being alone is not the same as being lonely. It is in aloneness that your soul gains strength. It is in solitude that you hear the quiet voice of your inner master. So let this be a reminder. Guard your words as you would guard a flame. Too much wind and it flickers. Too many voices and it vanishes. Speak not to be seen, but to serve. Speak not to seek attention, but to offer truth. And speak only when your silence has already taught you what your words are meant to say. Oversharing is easy, but restraint is mastery. And in that mastery, you will find yourself becoming unshakable. Every word you speak carries energy. Every time you share what is still forming inside you, your pain, your dreams, your plans, you expend spiritual energy. And if the timing is wrong, or the audience is careless, that energy is not honored, it is lost. Oversharing is not always honesty. Sometimes it is a hidden cry for validation, but validation that comes from outside cannot sustain you. When you rely on others to understand your journey in order to feel confident in it, you make your growth dependent on their approval. Inner strength is built in silence. It grows in solitude. When you protect what's forming inside, you allow it to mature. And when it is ready, when it has become strong enough to walk on its own, then and only then may it be spoken. Not as a question, but as a truth. Number 3, your story is still being written. There is a profound truth we often forget when we speak of ourselves too soon. Your story is still being written. You are not a finished chapter. You are a living manuscript, unfolding breath by breath, choice by choice. When we are too eager to define ourselves, to tell others who we are, what we've been through or where we are going, we trap ourselves in the past. We speak from a place that is incomplete, and we begin to identify with moments that were never meant to define us. A wound that is still healing is not yet a story, it is a process. A dream that is still forming is not yet a message, it is a whisper. And a transformation in motion is not yet truth, it is a sacred silence taking shape. When you share your story while it's still unfolding, you invite the world to comment on something that even you haven't fully understood yet. And often, their words, their opinions, their judgments, even their well-meaning encouragement can distort your own clarity. Think of a sculptor shaping stone. Would he invite a crowd to critique the sculpture when it is half-formed? Would he pause after every strike to explain what it will become? No. He carves in solitude. He trusts the process. He knows that until it is complete, it is not meant for the eyes of the world. The same is true for your life. You may feel tempted to speak your struggles aloud, to justify your decisions, to explain your direction, especially when people do not understand you. But understand this, you do not owe anyone an explanation while you are still evolving, and you do not need to convince anyone of who you are becoming. The seed does not announce itself to the soil, it simply roots quietly. The flower does not explain how it bloomed, it simply appears. You too must allow yourself the grace to grow uninterrupted. Many people struggle because they prematurely define their identity. They say, I am this, or I've always been that, forgetting that every day offers a new page. They write the final sentence before the story has had the chance to unfold. They limit their potential by boxing themselves into what is familiar, what is already known. But your story is not a static thing, it is alive. You are constantly rewriting yourself through your actions, your habits, your decisions, your silence. The version of you today may be vastly different from the one you become a year from now. Do not let yesterday's chapter bind tomorrow's possibilities. This is why silence is powerful when your path is still forming. It protects you from outside interference. It shields you from the weight of expectation. It allows your spirit to breathe, to test, to fall, to learn, and to rise again. Without the pressure of performing, you're becoming. And when the time is right, your life will speak for itself. The results will speak. The alignment will speak. The peace in your heart will speak. You won't need to explain because the transformation will be obvious. Until then, honor the stage you're in. Trust the timing of your unfolding. And remember, you are not here to be fully understood by others. You are here to be fully experienced by yourself. So hold your story close. Let it evolve in the safety of your own presence. Let it breathe, let it stretch, let it stumble, and most importantly, let it continue. Because the most beautiful part of your journey hasn't been written yet. And the world doesn't need your explanation. It needs your evolution. You are not finished. You are becoming. Every breath you take is a sentence. Every choice you make is a paragraph. Your life is still unfolding. So do not speak too soon. Do not define yourself by the middle of the story. Many people make the mistake of clinging to an identity they've outgrown, simply because they declared it too early, too loudly, to too many people. Let yourself evolve without announcing it. Let your life speak louder than your words. When the transformation is complete, there will be no need for explanation. Your presence will explain everything. Anything? Number 4, people will project their fears onto you. One of the most subtle yet powerful forms of interference you will face on your path is this: other people projecting their fears onto you. It often begins quietly. You share a dream, and someone tells you that's too risky. You speak of a change you feel called to make, and they say, "Are you sure that's realistic?" You express confidence in your growth, and they warn, "Be careful not to fly too high." At first, it may seem like concern, it may sound like wisdom, but look deeper and you will see they are not warning you about your path. They are speaking from their own limitations. Their fears are not facts. Their doubts are not truths. Their caution is not your compass. People speak through the filter of their own experiences. If someone has failed, they may fear your success. If someone has been hurt, they may fear your openness. If someone has chosen safety over growth, they may fear your courage. This is the nature of projection. It is not about you, it is about them. It is their unhealed fear dressed as your future. It is their insecurity wrapped in advice. And if you are not deeply rooted in yourself, you may begin to carry their fear as your own. You must learn to protect your mind from this subtle invasion. When someone projects fear, you do not need to absorb it. You can listen with compassion, but stay unmoved in your clarity. You must remember, just because someone cannot imagine what is possible for you, does not mean it isn't possible. A bird in a cage may warn you not to fly too far, not because flight is dangerous, but because freedom is unfamiliar to them. There is a story in ancient martial philosophy. A young monk trained in silence for many years. One day, he announced his desire to leave the monastery to climb a great mountain. The older monks warned him, "No one has survived the journey. You will die." But the young monk bowed respectfully and said, "With respect, your fear comes from never having tried. I will walk with faith, not with your memory of failure." The young monk left. He struggled, he fell, but he also climbed, and one day he returned, transformed. Not because he rejected the wisdom of the elders, but because he did not accept the weight of their fear. You must be like this. Listen to others, but only accept what aligns with your path. You can respect their journey without allowing their shadows to block your light. Be mindful of whose voice becomes your inner voice. If you surround yourself with people who always see danger, your vision will blur. If you share your dreams with those who only see impossibility, your spirit will shrink. If you allow the fearful to guide your steps, you will walk in circles instead of forward. So when someone doubts you, do not become defensive. Become still. Ask yourself, is this truth or is this fear? Is this reflection or is this projection? And if it is fear, return it silently, with love but with boundaries. Because your journey is yours alone. You are not here to prove others wrong. You are here to prove you're so right. Their fear is their lesson. Your courage is your path. And you must never trade your wings for someone else's cage. Be cautious who you share your vision with, not because you are hiding, but because you are protecting the seed before it blooms. Many people will look at your dream and say, "That's not realistic." But what they mean is, "It wasn't possible for me." Their fear is not your limitation. Their doubt is not your destiny. People speak through the lens of their own experience. And if their experience has been shaped by fear, failure, or regret, they may try to place those patterns onto you. Not to hurt you, but to comfort themselves. Be kind, be understanding, but be unshaken. One of the most quiet but powerful forces that can derail your progress is the fear of others. Not your own fear, but theirs. What makes this so dangerous is that it often hides behind a mask of advice, concern, or even love. When you begin to grow, evolve, or make bold decisions, many people around you will unconsciously begin to reflect their inner fears back onto you. And if you are not mindful, you will begin to carry their fear as if it were your own. It begins innocently. You mentioned that you want to start a business and someone says, "Be careful, most businesses fail." You speak about taking a break to pursue spiritual clarity and someone replies, "Isn't that a waste of time?" You share your dream to move to a new country and another says, "What if you can't handle it?" At first glance, it seems like they care, but in truth, they are not seeing your path. They are reacting from the limits of their own life experience. This is called projection. It is when someone places the weight of their fears onto your shoulders. Not because they mean harm, but because they have not yet confronted those fears within themselves. They are not warning you because your dream is too big. They are warning you because they never gave themselves permission to dream that big. Their caution comes not from vision, but from a lack of courage. And if you're not conscious, their voice will become your voice. You must remember this. Their fear is not your future. Just because someone failed at something does not mean you will. Just because someone regrets taking risks does not mean you should avoid them. Just because someone chooses safety over expansion does not mean that it's the wiser path. It only means it was the easier one for them. Be respectful of other people's experiences, but do not let their emotional history become your spiritual ceiling. There is a deep lesson here. People do not see the world as it is, they see it as they are. And when they look at you, walking a path they were too afraid to follow, their discomfort will often be masked as logic, as rationality, or as concern. They might say, I'm just trying to protect you, but often they are only trying to protect the version of you that made them feel comfortable, the version of you that didn't challenge their limits. You must grow beyond the need to be understood by everyone. It is not your duty to shrink your vision just to keep others comfortable. It is not your role to carry the emotional baggage that others have chosen not to unpack. Walk your path with awareness, and when people offer you their fears, do not argue, do not defend. Simply return the fear silently, with gratitude, but do not adopt it as your own. A person who has never flown will always warn you about the sky. A person who has never left the ground will always speak of gravity, not of flight. That is their truth. But it does not have to become yours. Trust your inner compass more than the outer noise. Hold fast to your vision, especially when it is misunderstood. And most importantly, know this: you are not here to carry other people's fears. You are here to break through them and to rise above. Keynote 5. The power of mystery protects your energy. There is an unseen power in remaining silent, in not revealing every step of your journey, in choosing not to speak until the right time. This is the power of mystery, and it is not to be confused with secrecy or deception. Mystery is a form of energetic protection. It is the sacred space between who you are and how much of yourself the world is permitted to see. When something is exposed too early, it becomes vulnerable. The more you reveal, the more energy you give away. The more energy you give away, the more susceptible you become to external forces, opinions, doubts, resistance, and even envy. Every time you speak about something that is still forming, a vision, a plan, a personal transformation, you make it accessible to energies that may not support its growth. Just as a seed is planted in darkness to sprout in peace, your evolution also requires a season of silence. In a world that encourages constant visibility, mystery has become rare, but it is not outdated. It is the discipline of those who walk the higher path. The ones who know that true power does not announce itself. It moves quietly. It builds silently. It acts when the time is right, and when the results appear, no explanation is needed. Mystery conserves your energy. When you are mysterious, you are not performing for anyone. You are not explaining your process. You are not convincing others to understand you. You are not seeking validation. You are simply focused, inward, steady and present. And this focus becomes your shield. It allows you to see clearly without being seen too clearly. It allows you to move freely without interference. It allows you to grow in strength before being exposed to judgment. There is also spiritual intelligence in not being fully understood. When people think they know everything about you, they stop seeing you. They categorize you, label you, put you into boxes based on their limited perceptions. But when you remain a little unknown, a little undefined, they cannot limit you. They must observe you. They must pay attention. This is not manipulation. It is mastery. It is choosing to walk with presence rather than noise. Many people fear being misunderstood, so they over-explain. They fear being misjudged, so they overshare. But in doing so, they lose their mystery, and along with it, their energetic clarity. When you are constantly explaining yourself, you're not walking your path, you're defending it. But a path that is true does not need defense. It simply needs to be walked. The wise do not move in the light of approval, they move in the shadows of purpose. They speak less and observe more. They know when to share and when to protect. They understand that what is valuable must be hidden, not forever, but until it is strong enough to withstand the world. So when people ask, why don't you talk about your goals? Or why don't you tell everyone what you're working on? Let your silence be your answer. Let your consistency speak louder than words. Let your results become your voice. Remember, lions do not roar while they hunt. Warriors do not shout during training. Masters do not explain every movement. They know that mystery protects energy, and energy, when protected, becomes unstoppable. You owe the world your presence, not your blueprint. Share only what serves, hold back what protects, and above all, honor your mystery. Because in that quiet space, your true power is being refined. Number 5, the power of mystery protects your energy. There is an unseen power in remaining silent, in not revealing every step of your journey, in choosing not to speak until the right time. This is the power of mystery, and it is not to be confused with secrecy or deception. Mystery is a form of energetic protection. It is the sacred space between who you are and how much of yourself the world is permitted to see. When something is exposed too early, it becomes vulnerable. The more you reveal, the more energy you give away. The more energy you give away, the more susceptible you become to external forces, opinions, doubts, resistance, and even envy. Every time you speak about something that is still forming, a vision, a plan, a personal transformation, you make it accessible to energies that may not support its growth. Just as a seed is planted in darkness to sprout in peace, your evolution also requires a season of silence. In a world that encourages constant visibility, mystery has become rare, but it is not outdated. It is the discipline of those who walk the higher path, the ones who know that true power does not announce itself. It moves quietly, it builds silently, it acts when the time is right, and when the results appear, no explanation is needed. Mystery conserves your energy. When you are mysterious, you're not performing for anyone. You are not explaining your process. You are not convincing others to understand you. You are not seeking validation. You are simply focused, inward, steady, and present. And this focus becomes your shield. It allows you to see clearly without being seen too clearly. It allows you to move freely without interference. It allows you to grow in strength before being exposed to judgment. There is also spiritual intelligence in not being fully understood. When people think they know everything about you, they stop seeing you, they categorize you, label you, put you into boxes based on their limited perceptions. But when you remain a little unknown, a little undefined, they cannot limit you. They must observe you. They must pay attention. This is not manipulation. It is mastery. It is choosing to walk with presence rather than noise. Many people fear being misunderstood, so they over-explain. They fear being misjudged, so they overshare. But in doing so, they lose their mystery, and along with it, their energetic clarity. When you are constantly explaining yourself, you're not walking your path. You're defending it. But a path that is true does not need defense. It simply needs to be walked. The wise do not move in the light of approval. They move in the shadows of purpose. They speak less and observe more. They know when to share and when to protect. They understand that what is valuable must be hidden, not forever, but until it is strong enough to withstand the world. So when people ask, why don't you talk about your goals? Or, why don't you tell everyone what you're working on? Let your silence be your answer. Let your consistency speak louder than words. Let your results become your voice. Remember, lions do not roar while they hunt. Warriors do not shout during training. Masters do not explain every movement. They know that mystery protects energy. And energy, when protected, becomes unstoppable. You owe the world your presence, not your blueprint. Share only what serves, hold back what protects, and above all, honor your mystery. Because in that quiet space, your true power is being refined. There is great power in being underestimated. When you speak less, people assume less. And in their assumptions you find freedom. You are free to act without expectation, free to grow without interruption, free to move silently and strike with precision. This is not deception, it is wisdom. It is the strategy of the monk, the warrior, the master. They do not speak of what they are doing, they simply do it. They do not show their strength, they hold it within. Mystery does not mean you are hiding something, it means you are protecting something sacred. 6. Speak only to those who can elevate you. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. When spoken into the right environment, they grow into clarity, strength, and transformation. But when cast into the wrong environment, they wither. Or worse, they are used against you. This is why it is not only important what you say, but who you say it to. There are people who can elevate your thinking, your energy, your spirit, and there are people who can drain it. Not necessarily out of malice, but out of limitation. You must learn to distinguish the two. Not everyone has the depth to hold what you carry. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to witness your pain without judging it, or to hear your vision without secretly competing with it. When you speak to someone who lacks awareness, your wisdom may sound like arrogance. Your vulnerability may be met with criticism. Your dreams may trigger their insecurity. What you hoped would be a moment of connection becomes a moment of disconnection. And if this happens often enough, you begin to shut down, not because you are weak, but because you are trying to bloom in the wrong soil. You must understand this. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. You don't plant seeds in barren ground and blame the seed for not growing. You don't share sacred thoughts with those who listen only to reply, not to understand. You don't open your soul to a heart that has not yet learned to hold its own. There are people who will make you feel heavy after every conversation, not because of what was said, but because of what was not received. There are those who will offer advice they've never lived, give opinions they never questioned, and place their fears onto your freedom. These are not evil people. They are simply not the ones who are meant to walk closely with you. But there are also people, rare, yet real, whose presence lifts you without words. When you speak with them, something inside you expands. They do not interrupt to insert their ego. They listen, not to respond, but to reflect. They do not compete with your light. They protect it. These people are sacred mirrors. They remind you of who you are when the noise of the world makes you forget. Find these people, and when you do, speak freely, not because you need to be heard, but because in their presence, your voice becomes clearer. In their stillness, your thoughts find space to breathe. In their wisdom, your truth becomes stronger. Speaking to the right people is not about status, intelligence, or agreement. It's about energetic alignment. You don't have to think the same way. But the intention must be pure, the space must be safe, the listening must be conscious, because only then can your words rise instead of collapse. And if you do not yet have such people in your life, then remain silent for a while longer. Let your solitude protect you until your circle can elevate you. Use the quiet to strengthen your discernment, to know the difference between noise and nourishment, between connection and convenience, between someone who wants to hear your voice and someone who is ready to hold your truth. Do not waste your sacred thoughts on careless ears. Speak only to those who can elevate you. Because your words matter, your energy matters, your story matters. Protect it, preserve it, and share it only where it can rise. Your words are seeds, and not all soil is fertile. If you plant your truth in someone who does not know how to hold it, it will not grow. It will be wasted. So choose your listeners with care. Speak to those who have done their inner work, who will not compete with your healing, or envy your success, or shame your struggles. These are the ones who will water your growth, not poison it. And when you find such people, speak honestly. But until then, remain rooted in silence. Number 7, stillness is the companion of spiritual strength. In a world addicted to noise, stillness has become rare. We are constantly bombarded with movement, opinions, distractions, and the pressure to act, speak, and respond. Yet, the deepest strength, the kind that transforms a person from within, is cultivated not in chaos, but in stillness. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of awareness. It is the deliberate practice of pausing, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. In stillness, you begin to see what is real and what is illusion. You begin to distinguish between reaction and response, between urgency and importance, between the noise of the world and the quiet truth within your soul. There is a kind of power that is not loud. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't demand validation. It exists in silence. In the way you carry yourself, the way you breathe, the way you observe. That is spiritual strength. And stillness is its foundation. The reason many people feel lost, anxious, or overwhelmed is not because they lack answers. It's because they never sit still long enough to hear them. They run from one distraction to another, always seeking something external to calm their internal chaos. But the soul does not speak in noise. It whispers, and if you are not still, you will not hear it. Stillness requires discipline. It is easier to speak than to remain silent. It is easier to react than to pause. But the one who masters stillness masters their energy. They are not shaken by every situation. They do not collapse under pressure. They know that storms come and go, but the mountain remains unmoved. They have become the mountain. Spiritual strength is not proved by how much you speak about your beliefs or how loudly you defend your path. It is revealed in how you live, how you respond to conflict, how you carry pain, how you treat others when no one is watching. And these things are not developed in the spotlight. They are forged in the quiet hours, in solitude, in reflection, in moments of deep inner presence. Stillness also teaches humility. When you sit with your own thoughts, your own fears, your own stories, without distraction, you begin to see yourself clearly, not as the world has defined you, not as your ego has constructed you, but as you truly are. This clarity humbles you, and that humility becomes your strength, because it roots you in truth. The greatest warriors are not those who fight the most battles, but those who have learned when not to fight. The greatest masters are not those who speak the most, but those who speak only when silence no longer serves. They are not led by impulse. They are guided by stillness. So if your life feels chaotic, if your mind feels restless, return to stillness, not to escape the world, but to remember who you are within it. Sit, breathe, observe. Withdraw your energy from the outer noise and you will discover an inner current, steady, calm, powerful. That is where your strength has always been. Stillness does not make you invisible, it makes you untouchable. It shields your peace, sharpens your awareness, and deepens your connection to life itself. It is not a sign of doing less. It is a sign of becoming more. In stillness, you stop chasing power and you become it. When you can walk with your wounds and not need the world to see them. When you can carry your vision and not need applause. When you can hold your truth without performing it. Then you're walking the path of inner mastery. Stillness is not a weakness. It is a discipline. It is the art of being unmoved by noise, undisturbed by opinion, and untouched by chaos. It is where you meet yourself fully, honestly, and deeply. And in that stillness, you discover a new kind of strength. The kind that does not shout, but simply is. Final message. You do not need to tell everyone your story. You do not need to explain your pain. You do not need to justify your peace. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to walk your path with courage, with clarity, and with quiet power. So protect your inner world. Let your silence teach. Let your life be the loudest thing about you. Because in the end, it's not the ones who talk the most that are the most powerful. It's the ones who walk in silence, but leave echoes behind them. There will come a time on your journey when you realize not everything needs to be said. Not every story needs to be told. Not every truth needs to be shared. And that moment, something shifts within you. You begin to understand that silence is not a sign of weakness. It is the signature of wisdom. That mystery is not about hiding, it is about protecting. That restraint is not a limitation, it is a form of spiritual power. The more you evolve, the less you will explain. The more grounded you become, the less approval you seek. And the more peaceful you feel inside, the less you will need the world to understand you. Because what you carry within is not for display, it is for devotion. Your energy, your path, your healing, your vision, these are sacred. And sacred things are not thrown into the crowd. They are nurtured, guarded, and revealed only to those who can honor them. So let the world wonder about you. Let your silence echo louder than noise. Let your life be your message, and your presence be your proof. You do not need to tell everyone your story. You simply need to live it fully, quietly, and fearlessly. And in doing so, your silence will teach more than your words ever could.